Turning now to your community focus. As we've been reporting, it's been exactly 1 year since the war between Russia and Ukraine began. And joining us live now via Zoom to discuss what happens next in this war is Jim Ludes with Salve Regina University. Jim, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So, Jim, I know you probably do too. A lot of us do. I vividly remember this day last year as we watched on television as this all unfolded. It's really hard for me to believe we're here 1 year later. Where does this war stand today?
Yeah, the scale of this war, I think, is, and the fact that it's lasted so long has certainly surprised a lot of people. But the British intelligence community just last week released some casualty numbers that really were kind of jaw-dropping. They estimate that Russia has lost between 175,000 to 200,000 casualties, and of that, 40 to 60,000 are killed in action. So to put that sort of into some sort of scale, the United States lost about that many, about 30,000 or 38,000 or so in Korea, and about 55,000 in Vietnam killed. The wounded numbers are about the same. So a year in Ukraine of high intensity combat versus 3 years in Korea or a decade in Vietnam. This is a level of intense conflict and combat in Europe that the world hasn't seen really since the end of World War II. And I think it's important to note too that this is the 1 year anniversary of this phase of the war in Ukraine. Russia invaded Ukraine in 2014 when it seized Crimea and annexed it back to Russia. This war has been going on since then. And so this is just the milestone that where a lot of the world started to pay attention, but it's not the start of the war.
Now, Jim, for people here in southern New England, this conflict may seem like it's literally a world away. What exactly is at stake here? How does this impact us at home?
Yeah, I think that is the question that I think a lot of people are asking, particularly when you hear about the levels of investment that the United States is making in the defense of Ukraine. When I was a student, I used to sit in class talking about the origins of World War II, and I would always sort of concentrate on Churchill. And why did he see Hitler to be the risk that he proved to be? Why did he know when so many others seemed to either ignore it or wish it away? And I think what history teaches us again and again is that we cannot wish tyranny away, and we cannot reward tyranny with its conquests. So Vladimir Putin has invaded Ukraine. He has his desire set on restoring the old Russian Empire, the old Soviet Empire, whichever empire it is. He wants to build his own empire. And if we turn a blind eye to Ukraine, if we let Ukraine lose this fight, then the next stop will be Moldova. And then after that, Estonia and Lithuania and Ukraine, and then maybe Poland. And what we have to consider in those last four examples, that those are NATO allies, and there the United States has pledged its sacred bond to defending the territorial integrity of those NATO states. So if we don't stop Russia and Ukraine, this war is going to expand, and it won't just expand probably in Europe. China's watching this as well. If the world refuses to help Ukraine, I think that the risk of a war in Taiwan goes up as well. And so it's not a matter of should we or shouldn't we. It's really what can we do at this point to help Ukraine defend itself so that this war doesn't grow any further.
Now, Jim, real quickly here, we often ask you this when you join us to talk about this conflict. What happens next, where you see this going from here? Of course, you just painted sort of a bleak picture if this doesn't end soon. When does this end? Do we have any sort of idea?
I think that and I'll do this as quickly as I can, but I think that what has to happen is there has to be a change in the political dynamics, probably in Russia, for this war to end. That either Putin has to make some sort of calculation, or there's going to have to be a change in the leadership of Russia for this war to actually end. Otherwise, this is going to be a long, grinding fight. Even the kinds of capabilities that we're talking about giving to Ukraine are no guarantee that they will lead to a quick victory. But we cannot let Ukraine lose, and we need to do everything we can to help Ukraine win.
All right, Jim Ludes from Salve Regina University. We always appreciate your time and your insight. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.